The Uses of Enchantment, The Meaning and Importance of Fairy Tales by Bruno Bettelheim. From Part 1, A Pocket Full of Magic. The Queen Bee, Achieving Integration. No single fairy tale does justice to the richness of all the images which give external body to the most complex inner processes, but a little-known story by the Brothers Grimm called The Queen Bee may illustrate the symbolic struggle of personality integration against chaotic disintegration. A bee is a particularly apt image for the two opposite aspects of our nature, since the child knows that the bee produces sweet honey but can also sting painfully. He knows, too, that the bee works hard to achieve its positive propensities, collecting the pollen out of which it produces the honey. In The Queen Bee, the two older sons of a king go out to seek adventure and live such wild, dissolute lives that they never return home. In short, they live an id-dominated existence without any regard for the requirements of reality or the justified demands and criticisms of the superego. The third and youngest son, called Simpleton, sets out to find them and through persistence succeeds. But they mock him for thinking that he in his simplicity could get through life better than they, who are supposedly so much more clever. On the surface, the two brothers are right. As the story unfolds, Simpleton would be just as incapable of mastering life represented by the difficult tasks they are all asked to perform as they are, except that he proves able to call for the help on his inner resources represented by the helpful animals. As the three brothers travel through the world, they come to an anthill. The two older brothers want to destroy it just to enjoy the ants' terror. Simpleton does not permit this. He says, "Leave the animals in peace. I will not allow you to disturb them." Next, they come to a lake where ducks are swimming. The older brothers consider nothing but their pleasure and oral cravings, want to catch some ducks and roast them. Simpleton prevents this also. They proceed onward, coming to a bee's nest, and the two brothers now want to set fire to the tree holding the nest to get at the honey. Simpleton again interferes, insisting that the animals must be neither disturbed nor killed. The three brothers finally arrive at a castle where everything has been turned to stone or is in a death-like sleep, with the exception of a little gray man who lets them in, feeds them, and beds them down for the night. The next morning, the little man presents the oldest brother with 3 tasks, each of which will be accomplished within a day to undo the spell cast on the castle and its inhabitants. The first task is to gather 1,000 pearls, which are spread and hidden in the moss of the forest. But the brother is warned that if he fails in this task, he will be turned to stone. The oldest son tries and fails, and the same thing happens to the second brother. When Simpleton's turn comes, he finds he is also not up to this task. Feeling defeated, he sits down and cries. At this point, the 5,000 ants which he had saved come to his help and gather the pearls for him. The second task is to fetch the key to the king's daughter's bedchamber out of a lake. This time, the ducks Simpleton had protected come, dive into the lake, and give him the key. The final task is to select from among 3 sleeping princesses who look exactly alike, the youngest and most lovable. The queen of the beehive Simpleton saved now comes to his help, and she settles on the lips of the princess Simpleton must choose. With the 3 tasks fulfilled, the spell is broken and the enchantment at its end. All who have been asleep or turned to stone, including Simpleton's 2 brothers, come to life. Simpleton marries the youngest princess and eventually inherits the kingdom. The 2 brothers, who were unresponsive to the requirements of personality integration, failed to meet the tasks of reality. Insensitive to anything but the proddings of the id, they were turned into stone. As in many other fairy stories, this does not symbolize death, rather it stands for a lack of true humanity, an inability to respond to higher values so that the person, being dead to what life is all about in the best sense, might as well be made of stone. Simpleton, standing for the ego, despite his obvious virtues, and although he obeys the commands of his superego, which tells him it is wrong to disturb wantonly or kill, is by himself also unequal to the demands of reality, symbolized by the 3 tasks he has to perform, as his brothers were. Only when animal nature has been befriended, recognized as important, and brought into accord with the ego and superego does it lend its power to the total personality. After we have thus achieved an integrated personality, we can achieve what seems like miracles. Far from suggesting that we subjugate animal nature to our ego or superego, the fairy tale shows that each element must be given its due. Had Simpleton not followed his inner goodness, read superego, and protected the animals, these id representations would never have come to his aid. The three animals, incidentally, represent different elements. The ant stands for earth, the ducks for the water in which they swim, and the bees the air in which they fly. Again, only the cooperation of all three elements or aspects of our nature permits success. Only after Simpleton has achieved his full integration, symbolically expressed by his having mastered the three tasks, does he become master of his fate, which in fairy tale fashion is expressed by his becoming king.